everyone. Welcome to the Glow Podcast. I am here today with a very exciting guest. I have Kevin from Sleeptopia, and I'm very excited to talk to him and all of the awesome things that they are doing over there. But if you are new here, we are Tailored Marketing, and we partner with organizations in healthcare, longevity, and the wellness space to fuel growth through strategic marketing strategies and sales strategies. So if you are interested, drop a comment below. Kevin, thank you so much for coming on. I'm very, very excited to talk to you and hear more about what you all are doing over there. So if you would, I would love if you would go ahead and give a little bit of an introduction so the listeners know who you are.
Thank you, Taylor. My name is Kevin Kunz. I'm the founder and CEO of Sleeptopia. We specialize in diagnostic testing and therapy for patients that require treatment for OSA.
Awesome. And so can you tell us kind of just like a little bit more about that and kind of what fueled, like any great innovations? I feel like there's always like a reason behind it. Like, okay, we found this need and this is what we came up with. This is our solution. And so how did you kind of come to developing this solution?
I'd grown up in Kansas. I'm a Kansan through and through. And so I lived in Dallas for several years and had the good fortune of being around so many intelligent people down there, and had one in particular individual that taught me, if you see a niche, you go after it. And as life would have it, we have family here. So we moved back into Wichita and saw there was a need for sleep testing for in the home base. As I've gone over, my mom, my brother, and sleep apnea is hereditary as well. So I know, I'm pretty certain my grandfather probably had it. And so my mom, my brother had gotten tested in a lab, and then my dad was a truck driver, and they were starting to mandate it with DOT. And I kind of the red light, as all entrepreneurs will say, kind of the light in their head just kind of triggered, right? And so obviously, not being an entrepreneur before, probably couldn't even spelt the word. It was, we all talk about it's scary in the very beginning. We don't really know what we're doing. And obviously in Wichita or in Kansas in general, we treat everybody in Kansas. Now we go to Missouri and Oklahoma, but it was one of those needs that needed to be met. And so I didn't know what I was going to do. And I always joke, $1,000 of my 401k is what I used. It was actually $4,997, I think, is what the total was. And our first office was this itty bitty office and no bathroom, no sanitary and heat. And there was moments in that time, right, where you're like, what am I doing, right?
Yeah.
And so you have to dig, right, as an entrepreneur. So we saw the need, and luckily the community started to embrace it. It started really appreciating what we were doing. It was obviously a third of the cost for what it was before. So we were saving people money, and then insurance has started to, really kind of back it, which was, obviously fantastic that they were doing that.
For sure.
It kind of changed the game. And so, 12 years later, here we are. We find new steps and new, as they always say, right, you're going to come across new issues that you're going to, encounter along the way. And no different 12 years in, it's just a little bit different.
Yeah, no, that's super, super awesome. And so I guess with the sleep test studies at home, you mentioned that they're a lot more cost effective. Are there any other benefits to doing them at home? I would guess that it's also people being able to sleep in their own bed. Because if you're going to do a sleep study, you have to go to the hospital or some sort of clinic and things like that. So I'm sure people feel a lot more comfortable with it, being able to sleep in their own bed too.
You're absolutely right, Taylor. No, you're absolutely right. That was our firm belief when I started the business was, they charge so much to go to a lab. Now I'm an advocate for sleep through and through. So there are some patients that do require, and it's not as many because we're able to catch them earlier on that, but there are some people that still have to go to a sleep lab. And everything has its purpose. But my mindset and how I went with it was home studies. It all started with a trucker in mind, with trucking companies, because they were going to mandate it. I was like, wait a second, being a kid that my dad did over the road trucking and for a spell of his life. And so I was like, wait a second, they can do this and there's no drive time. They don't lose drive time. They can do it in the cab of their truck, get back, get diagnosed, get a CPAP, and there's no delays. In the past, it had that stop and go to a lab and so forth. But we thought, wait a second, this is probably the right way to go. And then I'm from a farm community. And so I was like, wait a second,
Yeah.
a farmer's not going to go in because of, so they're going to put it off. And that's where all this started. So yeah, you're absolutely right. It was more a mindset of, hey, this is easier. It's in your bed. You're going to more likely do it at home than you
Yeah,
are. And we believe it's a better study. That's what we believe, just because
for
it
sure.
is in your bed. You're with your bed partner. You're with, some people sleep with their dog. It's normal routine through and through. So we thought, yeah, that is better than having somebody watch you sleep through the whole night.
Yeah.
We still get that. We still think people think we're going to stay all night at their house, which we do not do.
That's so funny. Yeah, no, I mean, I think you brought up another really good point too, just that it's almost like more natural. You're more likely to get an accurate depiction of what's actually going on because you're in your natural environment. If you are in like a lab, then you might not be sleeping the same way as you are when you're in your bed, like with your partner, or your dog, or maybe your kids sleep with you,
Yeah.
whatever. So it's like, you're actually able to get an accurate depiction of what's going on as well, which is another really huge benefit. So I'm so interested too, how does the process kind of work for people, and like what does that kind of look like for someone? Like, do they download an app, or how is the process work for the end user?
That's a great question, Taylor. We always say you have your relationship established with your primary care doctor, right? And we obviously push, go to your primary care doctor. Yeah, you've got that history. Sometimes, like with my family, right, they all see the same doctor, right? So the sleep apnea is hereditary, right? But you're going to have that long history, and they're going to understand it. So going to your primary doctor is usually the first kickoff, and then they'll usually order the study to us through that process, and then we handle everything after that. Now we're an end-to-end sleep provider, so where we're different from most, like we don't just do testing. We do CPAP and BiPAP as well when needed. And we're starting to add dental appliances. We're adding positional sleep apnea therapy, and we're even adding, we have our own sleep doctors, our own RTs, we have sleep coaches, we have all, so we're real end to end, right? So that's kind of differentiates us from everybody. But so the primary care doctor really tends to like that because we're able to kind of really help them. If they do a study, they don't need a CPAP, we can help them with, maybe it's sleep hygiene, right? So that's kind of where we differ. I want to kind of define that,
Yeah.
but going to the primary doctor, like they're going to step you every step of the way, right? And kind of you go follow back with them, and now this can help you kind of tailor what you need to do next, right? Because we always say a sleep study is kind of like an X-ray, because it's kind of giving the patterns of sleep, and that's where your body's healing itself and so forth. And so it kind of gives that primary card. Now they can kind of tailor what they're going to do with other stuff as well. And so that's a good thing. The next level is, we, like us, like most people, you can go online. You can go to our, like sleeptopia.com, and schedule with our sleep doctor as well. And they can get you a prescription for a sleep study or a CPAP. And we have that. There's others on the industry that have that. But again, we kind of say, hey, let's support local. Let's support, the primary care doctors, them be involved in that, because those are the people that really kind of treat you through and through, right, with everything. The issue with
Yeah.
Sleeptopia, right, or with any medical company, as I've watched some of your stuff. You know what I'm talking about. There's a lot of politics involved in medicine, right? There's a lot of and so there's the smallers and the largers, and all of that stuff. And one of the things that it's really important to remember is that we are really pushing our local primary care doctors right now. There's a lot of companies online that you can do it cash pay. It's a quick, easy, like it's just like that, right? But so for
Yeah.
us, like our bread and butter is, like, we're kind of ahead of the game on everything that we've done. Like uh, and I don't know if you want me to touch on this and all that. So a lot of these things, when you ask me questions, is like I'm going to answer them, and from a standpoint of, there's some politicking involved in it, right? So you have to say what you have to say, right?
Yeah.
And please take that offline. Don't post that, please. But there's a lot of it. So we,
Yeah.
our tried and true people are our primary care doctors, and so we push that. But we also, like, if you see me, I'm kind of talking out of two sides of my mouth. I'm trying to downplay our online side of it, but that's a lot of the direction, like where a lot of it's going, unfortunately. And it sucks
Yeah.
because the primary doctor is so valuable in the care of the patient, and that you can post. They are the most important
Yeah.
part of they are the starting point, right? And they start it for every specialist across the board, you know. And so
Yeah.
for us, we work hand in hand with the primary care doctor to keep control of that patient. And now that's the most important thing is we want them to keep control of that patient. And that's where we
Yeah.
specialize in.
Yeah. So I guess the best question then would be, how do primary care physicians play a when you are creating treatment plans for
Absolutely.
your customers and clients and patients?
That is a great question. Because they obviously are the starting point of everything. And the primary care doctor is so important, not just in sleep health. It's so important in every aspect of health, right? They send us to the specialists and so forth. Where sleep has changed and evolved over the last, 10 years, is home studies wasn't really accepted in the very beginning, right? You had to go to a lab, you had to go through all this process, and that's where we kind of changed the game in our state, and many have throughout the United States and that. But the primary care doctor now can keep control of that patient, which is really what they're need to do and what they're after, because treating sleep apnea has gotten with technology and especially with AI, it's gotten so much easier to treat. It's not as complicated as one might think. And there's so many options now that you can
Yeah.
go down, right? And so it's very, very important to get the primary care doctor involved in that, and educate them. And a lot of them are getting a lot more educated on sleep and how important it is on the overall health. And so we work really close with them on that. We tailor our approach to each primary care doctor, and we say that across the board. And I tell people all the time, they're the boss, right? The primary care doctor for us is the boss,
Yeah.
and we jump as high as they tell us to, right? And that's the important thing, right? And then going above and beyond for the patient,
Yeah.
that's the key, right? And so that's where the
Yeah.
primary care plays a role. Now they treat, now they follow up. Now for those complex cases that we talked about earlier, like, yeah, that's obviously where a specialist is going to really need to come into play, and that's where we're that liaison, right? We're that customer success coordinator, where we're helping them kind of tailor, and our job is to be educated in every step, and kind of help them along the way. Like I always tell people, we're just another tool in their belt, to try to be best for the patient, right?
Yeah.
So that's how
For
important the
sure.
primary
So
care is.
yeah, so it's like a patient would go to their primary care physician, tell them kind of the issues that they're having potentially with sleep, and then the primary care physician from there would then order a test for them to do at home, basically.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And if they need therapy, they can initiate therapy as well and go that route. So yeah, it's gotten so
Yeah,
streamlined now, right?
yeah. No, for sure. And I would love to hear like a little bit more kind of about some of the like sleep coaching programs, sleep therapy programs that you all offer as well through Sleeptopia.
Yeah, so basically after a patient gets set up, right? I mean, it's so foreign, right? I mean, anybody that starts treatment on anything is it's a little scary at first, right? So our sleep coaches, what they do is they
Yeah.
just kind of, we do it upon setup too, right? And so it's obviously treating everybody like family, right? And so we start in the very beginning, give expectations, and then our sleep coaches will do a follow up on that, and and see that patient, and they see him through for 6 months, and they just follow them. If they have problems, concerns, they can talk to them, a respiratory therapist, and talk to them about those problems and how to overcome them, and really try to help the patient get the best out of therapy if needed, right?
Yeah, no, that's awesome. That's so cool too. It's very, very holistic. It's like, okay, we're gonna kind of find this problem with your primary care physician. And then from there, it's like these are kind of the different solutions that you have that we can offer you. And so that's really, really cool. Even if somebody maybe doesn't have sleep apnea, but they're having some other issue, then it's like, okay, this is what we can do for you.
Yeah. Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. One of the things, like we say, we're end to end sleep, right? So I think, a lot of times, like you have companies across the board that will just do testing, right? And it's kind of test you and then they're done with you, right? And then there's some companies
Yeah.
just do DME, and where our approach really is, like, say you want to know more about the Inspire device. Well, you're always going to have to do a study first, which is an implant that is, out there. Our job really is to understand all of the aspects that are out there, who's a candidate for that, who's not a candidate for that. We have our board certified sleep docs as well that he's fantastic. And so if we have any concern, we just go right to him and ask him, right? That's pretty nice. And
Yeah,
so,
that's
but our
super
job is to
nice.
really, yeah, I mean, it kind of helps them. And every aspect that we do is end to end. It's like if you need to know about sleep hygiene, right? A lot of people don't practice great sleep hygiene, right? That's kind of the thing. And so like that's where we kind of help along the way. We don't just do treat and then test, we don't just test and then treat. Our job is really
Yeah,
to help you kind of find the best avenue. Maybe sometimes it's a mattress related stuff. We have partners in mattresses as well, you
yeah,
know, on that.
yeah. There's so many issues that like you could be having with sleep potentially, and sleep is like so important. Like I feel like if you go to like any integrative or like functional doctor, that's one of the first things they're going to ask you about is your sleep. Like, how are you
Yeah,
sleeping at night? Are you getting enough sleep? Like, what do you feel like in the morning?
most people think they can just throw a Red Bull at it, or any energy drink
Yeah,
or coffee, right? And so that's kind of the thing.
for
We
sure.
see that a lot. What's sad is we're seeing more and more kids, right, get tested for sleep, which is great, by the way. Early intervention is great, but a lot of people are just sleeping so horrible, and so we actually seen
Yeah,
a huge increase during COVID, right, of people getting tested. Now that might be they had the time to do it more so, but you're seeing more and more people be more aware of their health, and now they are asking those questions, right? And you're absolutely, Taylor,
yeah,
you were so smart on that when you said that, because people are finally going in there having that conversation, because our slogan is we have a trademark on don't ignore the snore, right? And so it used to be
yeah,
people just think it is a joke, right? But it's so true. Like, snore is your first indicator that there might be a little bit of a problem there. And so it's kind of one of those things where people are finally having that conversation of the importance of, and especially being around
yeah.
people that don't get enough of it. I mean, we all have stories of that, right? So,
For sure. Yeah, well, I feel like it was something for a while that was like a little bit more taboo. Like it was something that you didn't really talk about as much. And I feel like now it's becoming like a little bit more mainstream. Like people are talking about the quality of their sleep because it's such a big impact on your
yeah.
overall health and wellness.
Well, it's really funny is, I just came back from the airport, and how many people, like, you see how you have the Jeep wave, right? When people drive by with the Jeep, they wave. It's kind of like that when you see
Yeah.
people carrying a CPAP bag, you're just kind of like, what's up? And like, you're looking at, oh, they have, ResMed, or they have a React machine, or which machine they have based on the bag they have. It's kind of like, all right, hey, it's like you're part of a club,
It's
in
funny.
a way. It's kind of funny. So
That's
you just kind
that
of
is that's so funny, honestly, because yeah, I'm sure you can like recognize it immediately if you know what it is. You're like, oh, hey, what's up?
Yeah, it's actually a couple months ago. I was in the airport and I saw somebody had a Respironics machine, and anybody that knows anything about sleep, they had, obviously, Philips had a recall on their machine. It was handled pretty poorly, but I won't talk that to death. A lot of you have, but I went up to
Yeah.
a patient, not of ours. It was just a patient. I said, "Hey," I said, "Is that this machine?" And they said, "Yeah." And I go, "Did you know that's on a recall?" And because it had some problems with it, they were unaware of that. So that was another thing. And I don't
Yeah. Wow.
typically do that, but again, we're patient advocates, and we want to make sure people are getting the best. But that machine was causing people to, obviously get sick, and it's been well documented. And so, there's that aspect too. But yeah, the industry's changed a lot. I mean, and there's people like yourself that are talking about it, more in podcasts, and there's, a lot more videos on it, and, there's more of a conversation on it. The thing that surprised me the most, Taylor, was when I started this was I thought it would be more men that had sleep apnea, right? And I
Yeah.
don't mean to sound, and I thought it was going to be larger people, right? But
Yeah.
but we have patients that are itty bitty, and it doesn't discriminate on size, its anatomy. It doesn't discriminate on race. It doesn't discriminate on sex. It doesn't discriminate on anything. And there's certain medications that trigger more apneas, and so we've seen an increase on that, especially men that are on testosterone therapy. We've seen an increase in that. So
Yeah,
I'm very, very glad that these conversations are happening across the internet and social media platforms and podcasts like this. People can be aware of it more so and
for
understand,
sure.
like, it's so many people. I was joke. There's a conversation when a wife will make their husband do it, right? And then they come in and test, and
Yeah.
they both test, but the husband doesn't have it, or he's on the slow scale and
Oh my
does he goes
gosh.
a different, and then the wife has severe sleep apnea. And those are like the hardest conversations to have, and so
I
it's just
believe it.
it's so split down the middle that it's just so amazing, and it's taught me a lot, obviously not just about just sleep in general, but how bad my own personal sleep hygiene is. So, right, I think we're the worst at
No,
it,
for
right?
sure.
How's your sleep?
Overall, I would say it's pretty good. I know I don't snore because I have a partner, so he would know if I snored. I think my sleep is pretty good, but like
Yeah,
I mean I've always been interested to potentially try doing like a sleep test, but I've always hated the idea of going into a lab. I'm like I don't want to do that. Like it's going to affect my sleep, and it's also not going to be like we talked about earlier in a natural setting, so like it's like I could not even sleep there because I'm the type of person, I go to a hotel, and I don't sleep as well at a hotel because I'm in like an unnatural environment, and I just like I don't like it. And so I would be more open to doing a sleep test if it was at home than like in a
yeah,
lab. Like I don't think I would at this point. I'm like I don't need to go to a lab, like why would I want to do that?
yeah.
But one at home, I would be like, okay, maybe we'll try it, see how it goes, and go from there kind of.
Yeah. Well, you're not alone on that too, right? I mean, and that's where you kind of go back to
For
the theory
sure.
behind it. Like that sentiment is so across the board because I'm not going to do it, or they put it off. And unfortunately, we've had people, obviously we've done this for a long time now, but we've had people put it off with that same kind of mindset. And it makes you sad to think about how many people put it off in the 90s, right? And in the early
For sure.
2000s because sleep wasn't really, how many people pass because of that, right? And so it is,
Yeah.
more and more people are getting tested. And obviously, again, people like yourself creating more awareness of it and having these conversations. People aren't, as reluctant as yourself to go get it. Yeah. Now it's so simple. There's a device that just goes on your finger that attaches to your phone, and it gives us the data we need. And it's just the industry has changed so much, even in 12 years since I've going on 13 here. I've been in it. The testing devices have changed so much too. So it's just something you put on your
Yeah.
hand and attach to your phone, and it diagnoses you, and you'll be all right. You can get the data you need. So on
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, it's super easy it sounds like, which is so awesome. I feel like that's like I mean, I work in marketing, and like in marketing, they always say like you have to make everything easy for people. And I think it's the same way for everything. People are so much more likely. We're all so busy. We have so much going on. So it's just like the easier you can make anything for someone, they're just going to be more likely to do it and to
Yeah.
cooperate with whatever you're trying to get them to do, really.
No, you're absolutely right. I mean,
No,
you are
for
right.
sure.
Putting the human element into it, right? And that's what we do, right? And internet is so important, right? And people are buying stuff online and all that. And we also match internet pricing on stuff as well to be competitive. I'm a firm believer, just like what you're saying, make it easy on the patient. We that's why we offer in-home setups or in-office setups, and I'm a firm believer of brick and mortar, and to where you can come
Yeah.
in and pick up, try things on, and do that. Is you are right. Make it as simple as possible. And I think, going back to my roots of a small town, upbringing and how my parents raised me, helping the patient and or the person, and people first, right? And you're right,
Yeah,
make it easy, and so that's why we study the devices and give you the best, easiest option out there. So on that, so that's kind of what
for
we do.
sure. That's super awesome. And so, my last question for you would be, what are kind of the goals for Sleeptopia over the next year or two? What are you guys focused on right now with growth and growing the company?
You know, um, the industry as a whole is changing, and the devices are getting simpler, and obviously they're attaching to cell phones, and like that's what's great about technology, right? Is it makes things a little bit easier and more accessible and so forth. But so the future for us really is continue to do what we do. Continue to create awareness for sleep apnea. That's why we do things like this, market to the general public. It's continue to create and be advocates for the importance of sleep, right? So then the next phase is
Yeah.
obviously we expanded into, we're obviously in the Kansas City metro. We love being in Kansas City, and so we're actually going to expand another office in the metro up there. And then the next
Awesome.
phase is two locations in Oklahoma City and most likely St. Louis area, just so we can
Awesome.
have locations to where we can travel to patients' homes in the smaller communities as well. So that's kind of our continued focus, is to continue to do what we're doing and continue to be the best that we can be as a company. And that's kind of our focus.
Awesome. That is super cool. I am so happy that you got to come on today and talk a little bit more about Sleeptopia, sleep in general, how important it is, all of the fun things. And
Yeah.
thank you so much for coming on. Let all of the listeners know, how's the best place to find you and Sleeptopia online?
You can go to sleeptopia.com or a quick Google search, and you can kind of, look at everything that we've done. We've obviously I've been around for a while. So yeah, yeah, just do that, or always reach out to us as well. We're happy to answer questions. We love talking sleep.
Awesome. I'll also put that link in the show notes as well for easy access. Again, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it.
No, Taylor, thank you, and thanks for all you do. Thanks for reaching out to me and giving us this opportunity. I like what you're doing, and I hope that to see you continually grow. And we'll obviously share this, and hopefully you can. I didn't ramble on too much.
No, it was great. Thank
Okay,
you.
thanks, Taylor.